Fine. Well, firstly, everybody, thank you very much for joining Patrick and I this morning. It is actually a real pleasure and a privilege for me because this is the first ever time, today is the first ever time that Patrick and I have kind of shared a stage, shared a platform. He hosted a discussion group with me this morning, and it's my turn to repay the compliment. And it's something I've wanted to do for a very long time because both as a business owner and as a human being, Patrick is simply one of the nicest people I have ever met. And that's all very good, isn't it? But he's also incredibly good at what he does. So what we're going to learn today is going to be hugely insightful, hence my pen and my notepad next to me. So Patrick's going to, well, really, other than saying thank you for your time, Patrick, and welcome, I really just wanted to pass over to you and encourage everybody to have their pens and notepads and open minds completely with them, because this is going to be massively valuable content. So I'm going to give a little round of applause. I don't expect anybody else to, but a little round of applause to my friend, Patrick McLoughlin. Over to you, Patrick.
That's very kind of you, Steve. Thanks very much. What I thought we'd do, because we've got an hour, and first of all, thanks so much for making this time, because I know how busy we all are. So I just want to quickly look at a couple of points here that I'd like to cover today. I'm going to judge the success of today by, I suppose, the feedback you get, and if I deliver on these three aims that I've got for the next hour. The first really is to give you a really clear understanding of why marketing is failing accountants. It's encouraging fee bargaining and actually reducing our income. And when I say marketing failing, what I'm really talking about is, I think for most of us, when we think of marketing, the one thing we want from it, what we need it to deliver, is new business, and that's money in the bank. And this is the key area that I feel, and I'm going to show you, hopefully prove it to you, that why it's not working. Now, we will then look at a key mindset change that's actually going to transform your growth. And I can honestly say that of all the successful accountants, in terms of new business development that I've worked with over the last 18 years, they've all either had this mindset or they've worked hard to develop it, and it can be developed. And finally, whilst that is all terribly interesting, we're going to have a look at, well, at how we're going to build sustainable, high margin, high value fee growth. Wonderful. So if that's all good with you, could I ask you if we can achieve that over the next hour, are you going to be happy with that? If you could just type a yes into the chat box there, that would be wonderful. Excellent. Well, thank you, Steve. Great. We're starting to get through a couple of through here. Wonderful. Now, let's start off. I say, before I leap into looking at marketing, what I'd like to look at are the unique challenges that we face today. Now, this is from the last couple of months. It's from Accountancy Age. I could have taken cuttings from all kinds of places, and there's another one, a very quick one following this. But as we can see, this is recent. A majority of accountants plan to leave the profession within 5 years. It's talking about 4 out of 10 accountants being worried about automation and technology and the impact it's going to have on their income. Now, I've also, this is taken from, I think around May time, in The Observer. It lists the most endangered careers. And as you can see, accountants are second, which is certainly cause for concern for you, but spare a thought for me, as we offer high-end telemarketing services, the most endangered career next to accountancy. Now, there's a fantastic book that came out, I think it was at the beginning of this year, maybe at the end of last year, by Rob Nixon, called Remaining Relevant, which really touched on and highlighted how these changes are going to affect us, and really get some great advice on moving forward with it and what we can do for better outcomes. First point I want to pick up on is that already a lot of the cloud accounting software is taking away sources of income that, I won't say we've relied on, but would certainly been a core part of our income. Management accounting, for example. That income from certain packages has gone now and will reduce further. So let's look at the services we have left and the revenue that they're delivering for us. We are looking at, these are time reduction savings for accountants from the second year onwards, once it's been set up, of anything from 30 to 60%. Now, that may sound wonderful, that margin's in our pocket, but we all know what a competitive marketplace it is. Our clients will demand that saving, and your competitors will be passing it on. So, unfortunately, that's a pure cut in your revenue. And the impact of that, looking at New Zealand, where I think Rob is focusing on, because New Zealand is, I suppose, a cradle where a lot of the software is originated from and first got into common use. We've seen profit per partner decline by 22% in the last 8 years. Now, I know, Steve, that you did some research. Was it last year I was looking at how in the UK the profit per income per accountant had dropped.
Well, it's been an ongoing study over many years through our benchmarking software. And clearly there have been variations, but actually the biggest message to me is not so much about it dropping, although that is there, but the fact that it doesn't actually exist in the first place. Let me explain what I mean, Patrick. When we looked at notional profits, on average, it's sort of been somewhere between 60 and 75,000. Sometimes it's gone up, sometimes it's come down, certainly came down in the result of the recession. However, that's notional profits. That's before partner drawings. That's before the principals are being paid. If you were an economist, if you were a dragon, if, quite frankly, you were anybody sensible apart from an accountant, you wouldn't regard that as profit. You would charge against, you would deduct from that notional profit the arm's length salary equivalent. You'd have to pay someone as good as you to do your job and all the associated costs. And when you do that, what you find is that well over half of all accountants in the UK are making an economic loss. They are subsidising their businesses through their sweat equity. This is a profession that isn't working well. It almost doesn't matter which direction the trend is. Most people are making an economic loss. They kid themselves it's a profit, but it isn't. And a loss is the market's way of telling you you ain't doing it right.
Absolutely. I think in the 2020 conference we had last week, as I can't remember what the talk was, framed it so brilliantly. So 30% of these businesses are paying to go to work.
Yeah.
I thought it was so powerful. So we'll just pop onto this. Rob sums really up his thoughts in the book by saying that as an accountant, if you're not adding value to the data that you're putting in front of your clients, your days are numbered. So again, we're going to be looking at that in a bit of detail in a moment or two. Also want to look at, I'm not trying to fill you with fear, but it's worth us just being aware of the threats out there and where the economy, the profession is at the moment, and the choices we have. But these were a series of emails that have landed in my inbox over the last, I would say, 3 to 4 weeks from KPMG, who, as you can see here, starting fees are just £1,700. Now, regardless of whatever thoughts you may have in terms of the quality of the service or how well matched they are for smaller businesses, what we do know is there will be a lot of business owners out there who will be only too pleased to tell their friends and for themselves that the status of working with a firm like KPMG. We can also be absolutely sure that the remaining 3 of the big 4 firms will be watching this keenly, and if it does work out for them, are likely to take some role within this marketplace as well, which are, of course, all potential threats for us. Finally, we've seen it in other industry sectors. It's starting to creep into the profession. We're seeing comparison sites. Now, if you Google your hometown, your home city with the word accountant, I've certainly noticed this over the last 6 months. These are turning up, certainly in the paid for results, and they're doing a lot of SEO to actually end up high on the actual results that you're going to find within the rankings there. Now, what this means is that one of your new competitors is cheapest accountant possible. Now, I think this leaves us, and it's certainly something Steve talks an awful lot about, it leaves us with a great choice for the future. And I think it's summed up ever so well by Seth Godin in a book called The Icarus Deception. What he says is the race to the bottom is the internet-fueled challenge to lower prices, find cheaper labour, and deliver more for less. The other race is the race to the top, the race that focuses on delivering more for more. Now, I think we all know where we would rather be there, because the bargain basement is a very unpleasant place to hang out and live in. So now let's jump into the main body of the hour we have to go. We had a look, and I'm going to try and get through this quite quickly, but look and really give you an understanding of how marketing is failing accountants, that it's encouraging fee bargaining, and that worse than that, it's actually reducing your income, as commonly practiced by most, I would say, yeah, most accountancy practices today. Now, I have been working with accountants for 18 years. I have had a general pattern that as firms grow to a certain size, they will go out and recruit a marketing manager or a marketing executive. And quite often, these marketing people have not got the authority, the responsibility to focus on the areas they want to. They're, I wouldn't say glorified admin people, but they don't have that chance to get stuck in. So that's, I'm certainly not, and I know we've got a number of marketing people in the audience today, I am not laying the blame for this in the marketing profession. But what I am saying is, as marketing is practiced today, we have some core problems. Essentially, and this is even in the term of what the job titles, is marketing communications. So the partner's view, the direction that they're putting their marketing people into, and the focus from the practice is quite often communicating their message. Now, again, obviously that's key, bringing on new clients, but in isolation, on its own, it's not going to work. And it doesn't work, as we've seen from the research. You often see it measured, the kind of metrics that we're looking at, or that firms talk to me about, are their Twitter followers, or their LinkedIn connections, the lists they're building, the open rate, the click-through rate, website visitors, and of course we still have the odds and the pens. Now, again, I'm looking at a very clear, I'm not saying that never do any of these activities. You know, LinkedIn works incredibly well for us. But what I'm saying is they have to be part of a lead generation plan, which is a lead nurturing plan. So we actually get in front of these people, and that we end up putting proposals or plans of actions to take them forward and work with them. Now, marketing, as it is commonly practiced, makes us feel very good. We see our name, our logo, quite often our faces. We've blogged before about, what do we call them, gravestone, tombstone ads that you often see with accountants, name of the firm at the top, but of course that means nothing to anybody, a few names of partners, etc. But it's us pushing our message out. And it just doesn't pull money into the bank. So it makes us happy, we're not a bank manager. Finally, I suppose in essence what I'm saying here, and I've touched on this, is that if our marketing is focused on us and our story, it's pretty much the same as everybody else. We all have similar stories. I always think a good point here, and there's a way you can often tell a salesperson, is by how they answer the question. Tell me about the practice, tell me about the firm, tell me about your business. Now, a lot of, it's quite a standard response, saying, well, we set up 20 years ago, and I've worked with you, and blah, 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 blah. And then you'll quite often hear the question, the man who put the question, or woman who put the question to you say, well, all I wanted to know was, can you help me with my inheritance tax? I don't want the whole history. So you'll hear the salesperson or a marketing person, response to that question would be, what would you like to know? And that's us moving forward in terms of our marketing. Let me build a little bit more onto that for you. Essentially what I'm saying is that nobody is interested in you, and sadly they're not interested in me either. They're not interested in our business. They're interested in one thing only, and that's what we can do for them. And that is a really key message. I'm going to look at some of the ways that accountancy is very common in professional services, especially accountancy. But some of the claims that we make that don't actually differentiate us from our competitors, that they don't put us apart, they bond us together. So effectively, we are promoting and selling accountancy, not that special something that you have to offer, the outcomes that you can help deliver to certain business owners at certain stages of their development. We'll put into a couple of loose brackets. We'll look first at the irrelevant. I won't ask you to put a yes in the chat box, but I would imagine one or two of these might be on your homepage. This is personally my favourite, a leading independent firm. Of course, it means nothing. Leading is subjective. There's nothing to substantiate it. It's just empty talk. Now, a friendly and unique approach. Well, if I'm to consider, as a business owner, working with you, you better be friendly. Because that's one of my minimum standards. It's the price of entry. If I'm to consider working with you, if I've got a frosty receptionist and if you're cold to me, then chances are you're not the person I want to work with. Unique approach, well, what does that mean? Again, nothing. Again, we see this an awful lot, the rise of the word passionate. It's on an awful lot of websites. A lot of business owners have heard this all before. And I think especially with proactive, it's not, and Steve, you talked about that earlier this morning ever so well, but we, as a profession, we've fed these terms out and we haven't substantiated it, we haven't delivered on them. Specialised and owner-managed businesses, well, with 99.9% of other accountants. Or variations on this you'll see, big enough to cope, small enough to care. And then we'll look at the minimum standards. Again, these don't differentiate you, but they say it's a price of entry. Let's have a look. We're client focused, or we work as part of your team. Again, it's assumed, I'm afraid, that that's the least I expect from you. We offer the full range of accountancy services. You're an accountant, really. We have professional and high technical standards. I know a lot of firms do focus on the strength of their technical expertise. But again, if we can take ourselves away from being an accountant and put our head in the place of a business owner, the way they view your work is it's right or it's wrong in terms of your technical ability. So while you might say this is a great piece of technical work, unfortunately it means very little to the business owner. To sum this up, what I want to get across is that if you can't differentiate your service, if you're selling generic accountancy, then your service will be differentiated by your prospects, and they'll differentiate it on the only thing that's left to them, which is of course the price or the fee, and the lowest fee will always win. So that's how important these small claims we make have. That might seem insignificant and it might seem, well, yeah, similar to my competitors, they're actually very, very damaging. Because when people do respond from these claims, if that's how you speak about yourself and your service, if that's what's on your website and your promotional material, you are driving your prospects to ask frequent requests to sharpen your pencil, and they'll come back to you, can you match this fee? They'll go through that whole beauty parade based on fee. Now, what I want to look at now is this mindset change that really can transform your growth. I think I mentioned earlier that every strong, successful new business development accountant I've had has had this or worked on it. We've talked before about marketing is about me and pushing my message out there. The approach here is really quite different. We need to focus, as we looked at earlier, not any client, but those clients that are prepared to pay us premium fees for a premium service, which usually means a premium outcome. Now, with ideal clients, I just want to get this across to you of why it's worth making this effort and how we have to, if we're looking for a more prosperous future, we have to focus on our ideal clients. Ideal clients appreciate the difference you make. The criteria, the decision is not based on fees. Fees become a secondary issue. They're going to stay with you longer, and from a marketing or a sales perspective, the key metrics we would focus on would not be the fee you're generating in year one, but would be the lifetime value of that fee. Now, the longer these clients stay with you, and they'll stay with you because you are delivering them a better service as they perceive it and as they want, your lifetime value and of course your lifetime profit increases. Thirdly, and this is really key, the work you carry out for your ideal clients. It's not just that you're generating more income, but they will pay you a premium for it. This is different to point one. It might seem quite similar. I'm saying they're not choosing you because you're cheap, as in point one. This is they're going to pay you a real premium because they value your work so much. And I know, Steve, that this is certainly something that I found, and I know that working with a lot of your ABM members, they've told me that the work becomes so much more enjoyable. The client relationships are so much stronger and better when you're doing high value, high appreciated work like that. I don't know if you've anything to add there, Steve.
I think your analysis of the power of focusing on ideal clients is absolutely spot on. The work becomes more enjoyable. Those kind of clients are actually just a joy to work with. David Maister used to stand on stage and ask a question which is really very, very pointed, but I think it's worth repeating at this point. He used to say, so David Maister, probably the world's most respected ever advisor to professional service firms, author of Trusted Advisor, Harvard professor, and just awesome. And he used to stand on stage and say, who's got clients, who works with clients that they don't like? Every hand in the audience would go up, and then his second question was, what's the difference between you and a prostitute? Because if you're effectively prostituting yourself, selling your services to someone that you simply cannot bear working with, that's essentially what the oldest profession in the world does. And it doesn't have to be like that. Why would we do that to ourselves? Life isn't rehearsal. Every single minute of it is precious and should be enjoyable in itself, not just something that we tolerate in order to get somewhere else, retire. It'll all be all right when I retire. We should be enjoying the journey, not just the destination. And when you work with ideal clients, you enjoy the journey and you get to a much better destination too. So it's a no-brainer.
Absolutely. And this is something that I can talk from personal experience. It's part of the journey that we've had as a business, what do you say, accountancy growth agency, if you like. What we made a decision a few years ago to increase our fees. From what we were charging £1 went up to £2.50 virtually overnight. We lost a number of clients, but without exception, these all fell into your wonderful category, Steve, of BMWs.
Yeah.
I called off a review at Accountancy, I think, this year. But yeah, bitches, moaners, and whingers. These were the clients that we were always chasing for payments, that nothing was ever quite right for, that were a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more difficult to deal with. These were the clients when your phone rang, it's, I've got so-and-so on the phone, and you go, oh no, really, okay. And these clients melted away. The clients that we stayed working with were those clients that were happy to pay us a premium because we were doing something that they liked. And in our line of work, what that means is a high return on investment. And for us, it meant, for me and the team here, we could put so much more time into getting those outcomes. We weren't cutting corners. We could really deliver a great service with a great return. So I'm talking about this, and it's scary. It is scary when you do this, but it's worth the effort, and it does work well. So let's have a quick look at attracting your ideal clients. I think there's a great temptation here to jump in and say, okay, I'll look at a couple of the best clients we've got at the moment. I'm going to focus everything on reaching these people. But, apologies for the mic. But what you'll find, what we found, is we need a far greater understanding. If we're going to go in there and appeal to these people, we have to understand an awful lot about them. Stephen Covey's, of course, everybody knows, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, stunning book, makes an excellent point. I think it's point number 4, but I might be wrong. Seek first to understand and then be understood. What we really encourage, and when we take on new clients, we encourage them to build a persona, and that's to build an imaginary ideal client. We give them a name, a background, we give them challenges, we give them aims and goals in the business, etc. So this is pretty much a summary of what we do on one page. We look at the goals, we look at the sources of information, where we can reach these people, where we can find them. We look at a demographic breakdown, kind of age bias, areas they live in, income, etc. We look at the, touched on the challenges and the pain points. Where would you like to be in 5 years' time? What is preventing you from getting there? What is causing the friction? We have to understand these points. And we do it by research. Anyway, objections and the role in the purchasing decision. Again, is there a team involved in purchasing, in making this decision? And what kinds of objections are they going to have to working with us? What I want to do is, because this is the mindset change, it's getting under the skin of the clients. It's really understanding everything about these perfect clients, these ideal clients that we're going to spend the rest of our career working with. and enjoying working with and making a better income and a better lifestyle from working with. So what I want to do, because as I say, it's going to take you a bit of time and you really have to commit to this, to working on it, I'm going to just reinforce the benefits. What it helps you to do is it helps you to spot your ideal clients in the crowd. So that means if you're at a networking event, you're talking to somebody, if you're getting referred to somebody, again, there are certain clues, certain hints that you can pick out from the conversation, certain environments that you would want to invest more of your time and effort into because they're more likely to contain your ideal clients. That's a really key point. I would say this is about far more than marketing, but what's such a great benefit is that they allow you to see your service, that's the work you do, how you do it, and all of your marketing through the eyes of your ideal client. And it really does transform what you work. You'll find that we'll call them Jane or John. They become the most talked about person in the office. Whatever you're working on, would they like it? I don't think John would like this. I don't think Jane would be happy with. Blah, blah. And from a copywriting perspective, I think all good copywriters would tell you this. You're always going to get a better result and get more engagement and more impact if you're writing or talking to one person than if you're addressing a crowd. It really hones in on that engagement and communication with it. And finally, again, absolutely key, is that as you work through this process, and we're going to go on to it in a minute or two, it filters down to helping you to build a relevant and attractive offer, to focus your message. We looked at some of the messages that we're putting out there at the moment and the damage they can cause. What we're going to look at in a moment or two is how looking at those earlier areas we've just touched on filters naturally through to, it's a natural progression to putting our offer together. Now, the client that we're doing some work with at the moment is very kindly let me use his, we're working on this, it's not a completed job, but you can see a fair idea. I think we've all got clients like David. We can immediately, with that photo, and it helps, we get a slight impression and an emotional feeling towards David. I'm going to zip through this, keep my eye on the time, because I know we've got quite a lot to cover. But what we're going to do is just have a look at David in a bit more detail. He set up his construction business 5 years ago, plus years ago. Turnover's anywhere from $500,000 to $5 million. He's married with 3 children. Might seem irrelevant, but wait a minute, you'll see a bit later. Now, demographics. There is a male bias for the kind of clients and the sectors that this particular client is targeting. Suburban bias as well. Tend to gauge around the 40 to 50 mark. Earning 50 to 70,000 a year. Investing into the business, so not taking everything out. How can we identify them? They're typically very busy, often on site, difficult to get hold of. Because David is the ideal client, he has an open mind. He wants to know more, he wants to do better. He's a curiosity. But David has built the business up. He finds it difficult to delegate and difficult to let go of certain areas of the business. Now, what is David trying to achieve? What are his goals? Why does he turn up to work every morning? He needs he needs to spend less hours in the office and spend more time with his work. And you'll see why that is again in a moment or two. He wants to put his children through private school. It's important to David to give them an education he didn't have. Now, David has 3 children. He will not send one to school, although he could afford it, unless he is absolutely certain that he's going to be able to provide that same level of education to all of his children. He's also, as the family has grown, he really do with a bigger house. So this is a key issue for the family too. And again, what we're looking at here is David, the business owner's goals. We're not focusing, David is the business. So this is the key area for us. Let's look at the challenges David faces. The business has stopped growing, and I can tell you why it stopped growing. Look at the earlier point. He's spending so much time within the business, he is spread as thin as he possibly can be. He has reached the ceiling because he's no more time to put into the business. Now, one of his challenges is how he's going to make the business less reliant on him. If we look at how we can help, just again for this particular client, They can improve the management information, allowing David to focus his time on growth and profitability. The better the information, the more accurate, the more up-to-date it is, the more regular it is, he can make better decisions and make better use of his time. How we can help, remember the children we talked about? We can plan and forecast how the business can deliver David's bigger house and school fees. That means we need to know how much they are. We need to sit down with him and put a plan together, how he's going to generate this additional sales or if it's additional profit. Now, let's look at the kind of comments that we're going to hear David say. Again, really useful, certainly for us. We talk to hundreds, I think it's like thousands, well, certainly hundreds of business owners every week. This really helps us to pick out those that are right, that are worth pursuing a bit more, worth asking a few more questions. Now, for David, he can't find the time and the staff to push the business forward. And you can see what a problem that is in terms of how thinly he is spread throughout the business. He certainly didn't start the business to manage people. That isn't David's skill, and he certainly doesn't enjoy it either. And again, this is very common, a lot more common than you would think. He doesn't feel in control of his finances. The accountant that presented to him mean very little. He gets very little practical value or help moving the business forward. Now, again, hopefully you can see how this is naturally progressing from one area to another. But there are some common objections that we know David will have to our proposition. How often do you hear this one? My business is unique and I don't think your solutions work for me. We're a bit different to everybody else you're working with there, Patrick. Well, yeah, lovely, but it wouldn't work for us. So these are things we have to think about and we have to work on and talk to our clients about. To give us how they've overcome these objections and how we've got them on board in the first place if they have these thoughts. Next, and again, this is a really key point. We run into this quite a lot. We have to be very sensitive. We don't go striding in there telling them, I'm going to transform your business, I'm going to make you more profitable, I'm going to do this. That isn't the way it works. David and many similar business owners are very sensitive once you start talking about the difference you can make to their business. We have to remember that we are not the star in the foreground. We are the mentor in the background. It's important that we always, that the hero of the story is always the client. Now, let's look at the work in progress marketing message we have for David. You are the pilot of your business. It's your energy and direction that drives the business forward. Important to acknowledge this. But our clients tell us they reach their goals quicker working alongside a good navigator. Working together, we can set a path to your goals and review and improve the key numbers determining your success. When you need to change course, you'll have the information and guidance to act decisively. As I say, it's a work in progress, but hopefully you can see the progress we're making with it. Now, on to, I wouldn't say that's theory because it is so key, certainly in terms of mindset, but let's look at some practical ways of how we're actually going to build this sustainable, high margin and high value fee growth. The common objection we get here, because what we're talking about is raising our fees, and I'm sure you get this as well, Steve, but one of the initial responses we get is our clients wouldn't pay those fees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you know, is that I can tell you now that they're looking for the cheapest service and they're not going to go and pay good money for the kind of outcomes that you're talking about. You gave a fantastic example of this on Friday at the 2020 conference about the mobile phones.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could share that with us.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really powerful metaphor. This is, it just happened to be by the side of me, I didn't know you were going to ask me to mention it, but I mean, this is an iPhone, and this costs about 500 quid. You can buy a mobile phone for about 50 quid, can't you? But an enormous number of people choose to buy one of these for 5, 10 times what they could pay. These are the exact same people that are our clients and prospects. Most of our clients and prospects buy mobile phones and houses and cars that are more expensive than they could have paid. They choose to pay more because they see additional value. They see extra value. They see extra value in an iPhone or a nicer house or a flashier car, whatever that value is, whether it's status or speed or pleasure and enjoyment. We always, every single one, even the person you think is your most price conscious client ever, still chooses to pay more than they could do sometimes when the proposition that they're offered, whether it's a mobile phone, house, car, shirt, meal that they eat out, pint of beer they drink in the pub, they choose to pay more when they judge they are getting more. And if if accountants are not hitting that resistance from their clients, it's either because they aren't delivering enough more to their clients so they can appreciate the value, or they're not communicating it effectively so the client, whilst they're getting a great deal, doesn't understand that. Either way, it's the accountant fault. Either there isn't enough value or we're not explaining the value clearly enough. Either way, it's our fault. It's self-inflicted pain and it's ridiculous. Sorry, I'm one of my hobby horses.
That's brilliant, Steve. As I say, we talk to hundreds of business owners every week, and we do, there is a common reaction, an instinctive reaction. I've got an accountant, he does that for me. You're a necessary evil, not particularly fond of your accountants, and I'm looking for the cheapest one. If we're talking to people like that, we're really sorry to hear that, and best of luck going forward. Thank you, and goodbye. We're not going to drag them too far of a journey in terms of meeting with one of our clients, but you have to think of it again from their perspective and look at the services they've typically received in the past, and look at the kind of websites that we've looked at that copy and the messages that we're putting out there. We have a lot of work to do in terms of educating business owners on the potential that we can help them fulfill. Now, I just want to back that up. I love the example about the iPhone. I think that particular member even takes it out with him, doesn't he, on meetings?
Yeah.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. Literally, they take out two phones. They take out a smartphone, literally a smartphone, and they take out an old-style Nokia, and they use the metaphor of the two. Which of these two phones would you choose? An old-style phone that just makes phone calls, or a new-style smartphone that does so much more that makes your life easier and better? Everybody says the smartphone. Of course, that's what they've got in their pocket. It's exactly the same with accountants. There are two types of accountants. There's the old-style accountant who merely tells you the score months and months and months after the year end to file it with the revenue. And there's a new kind of accountant, like the smartphone, that will make your life easier and better. That's what we are. And then you go on to back that up with proof.
Yeah, brilliant. And we're not archaeologists. We're not there to dig up the past.
Mm-hmm.
We're there to help you build a better future. But
yeah.
I just want to show you this in case you've got any doubt. And I know it is a big decision, and we often work with firms and with partners that will push forward, and it will come back and hit them a couple of times. And Patrick, they're not going to pay for it. They're not going to pay for it. And I'm sure you get even more of that, Steve. But this is research by Wharton Business School. Breaks buyers down into three very simple groups and just quantifies them. Now, these are the people that we're all talking about, the people that do have a natural lower ceiling for spending. But we're looking at 1 in 4 of these, 1 in 4 of the population. So what, 24% they term Taiwans. Now, I would say, from my own experience and the clients that we've helped clients acquire, that even with these people, if you can demonstrate value, don't give up on them. But as I say, that's just 1 in 4. We then have the larger group, the majority, termed unconflicted. These are average spenders. Again, show them value, they will pay for it. But we have to show it to them. And that's often in terms of the outcomes we can deliver. Now, the third group is a much neglected group, a group that you addressed excellently on Friday again at the conference, but I'm just going to quickly move on to them. These are people that have a higher ceiling for spending. These are people that want to spend more. And if you don't offer them an option, you are doing them a disservice. They will go somewhere else where there is a luxury, a high level offer available. They are naturally inclined to spending more money. These are a group, what, 15%, what's that, 1 in 7, 1 in 8, something like that? These people, that's a high number. These are the people that will consider the very top offer that you have to them, which I know Steve and Mark Richard did some fantastic work on pricing and the value of a high anchor price. I think this morning, Steve, you talked about a top range offer of around, was it 30 to 70?
35 to 70,000 pounds for a quasi FD service. You explain it very briefly to the client. You say, but actually, I don't think that's appropriate for you at the moment. So I don't think you should buy that. Actually, very occasionally, maybe less than 15%, but once in a blue moon, the client will say, hey, wait a minute, don't take it away from me quite so quickly, because people hate you taking away a service from them. But the main purpose of doing it is not once in a blue moon to sell a 35, 70,000 pound service. The main purpose of introducing that very high price is that it makes every other price thereafter seem so much better value for money. But also, when you say to someone, I have this expensive service, but I don't want to sell it to you, actually, they trust you so much more straight away, because you've already told them, I'm not going to try and sell you my most expensive service. So your second most expensive service, which I suggest you call the total accounting solution, is going to appeal to all of those spendthrifts and many of those unconflicted. And as you say, there are very, very few tightwads out there, really.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, let's have a quick look again at we touched on the claims that generalise, not differentiate firms. Again, we're just going to flick through them quickly, just so that they're in our minds, and these are the kind of claims that are quite common within the profession. Let's pop that, I'm carrying away there. Now, what I want to show you is the context of where these claims rest and the consequences of them. Just, we have a big red...
Patrick, can I just jump in and say that previous slide sums up 98% of the marketing I see accountants do, and as you rightly say, it is ridiculous, it is swimming in the sea of sameness, it generalises, not differentiates, and yet that is 95%, those messages are 95%, 98% of what accountants do. We have to break out of that sea of sameness, don't we?
We do, and I'm afraid this is, you look at the top 50 as well,
yeah.
There isn't a change there. And it's not just that they don't help us, but if you think of what we talked about earlier, if we can't differentiate our service, we're doing the absolute opposite here, we're generalising it, then the only way clients can choose it is by the cheapest service. We've left them no other choice. These are damaging. It's not just that they're ineffective, they're actually damaging to us.
Completely, yeah.
What I just
damaging in so many ways. Not only do we only pick up ordinary clients for whom we only have enough money in the budget to do an ordinary job, we therefore build reputations as ordinary accountants who serve ordinary businesses, and that's just going to result in ordinary outcomes. And as ordinary outcomes for us, and as we saw earlier, the average accountant in the UK makes a loss, not a profit. That's what ordinary equates to, making a loss. Kidding yourself it's a profit, but actually making a loss. And it's self-inflicted pain. It doesn't have to be that way.
Not at all, not at all. We've talked about ideal clients, and we've talked about there's not one type of ideal client, which is why we have the personas and why we really hone in on the difference we can make to certain clients at certain stages of their business development. But let's just see how this falls together here. Fee pressure is typically focused. I'll show you what these circles are first. Here's our prospect or our client's needs, everything in the world that they need to succeed and run their businesses successfully. Here's our competitor services, the rest of the profession, and here's what we do. All of those claims we've looked at sit here in the middle. This is why you're effectively promoting accountancy, but not your form of accountancy. And if you're making these claims, you're right slap bang in the middle of fee pressure. And that's only going to, certainly what we looked at the beginning and the current environment, that's only going to get worse. Now, next to our big red circle of fee pressure, we have premium fees. Naturally enough, these sit in this area here where your prospects and your clients want and need this help, this support. You provide it, your competitors don't. Now, that doesn't mean that differentiation means unique. I'm the only firm in the whole world that can deliver X. But it is important to have a clear focus. I think Mark Lee mentioned one to me, which is absolutely fantastic, I'm trying to remember it, was for an IFA who focuses on helping women who are in their 50s and who are recently divorced build for their retirement. So, again, if you think of 10, you're at a networking event and you're talking to an IFA, you're talking to 5, 4 of them say, yeah, they've got clients, we'll help them with whatever they want, and one of them comes out with that. You immediately start thinking, who do I know that fits into that category? You're going to remember when you meet people because it's such a strong thing. Now, let's have a look at just some of the true differentiators out there. I don't think there's anything particularly groundbreaking here, but if you are specialists in certain industry sectors and you can demonstrate your knowledge and demonstrate the benefits that you can bring, if you are specialists in certain services or outcomes that you can deliver for clients. And again, I pull this up here, very basic, but we hear it so often, I just really want to register it with you. And that's we explain the accounts in a way that makes sense to you. Don't think these are small business owners saying these things, but we only, for all of our clients, we have a starting point of $500,000 turnover. So usually up to 10, 20, some up to 50 or 60. So these are reasonably sized businesses we're hearing these comments from. Now this, I just love. I wonder if you can tell where it's from, Steve, but it's a bit unfair to ask you, but one of the best books out there. We want an accountant who can help us create beans rather than simply count them. Can you do that? And of course that's from Firm of the Future. Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's what you're based on, isn't it, Steve, essentially? Aren't you so much of what ABN do?
Yeah. Well, Paul and Ron have been massive influences both to the entire accounting profession globally and to me personally. And Paul is a personal friend and a mentor and a genius. And Ron is definitely a genius too. There's no doubt about it.
And again, it's that pure passion that comes across in conviction.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. I just wanted to show you here some example of effective differentiation. Now, again, this might look at something that's been very simple. Stick the head there and put a little headline in place, and it's not substantiated, etc. But I can tell you that when you see work like this, this has come from the persona, come from the comments they make, the aspirations they have. It's very simple. We've got a picture there of a grey-haired, suited man. We're not your father's accountant. We're different. Read better.
I love that strapline. That is also, we're not your father's accountant. That is brilliant. So that sums up so much. It implies so much, doesn't it? Oh, wow.
Absolutely brilliant. I had a whole load of these to run through because we're a little bit short of time. And again, what I want to get across is this isn't some thought that's just popped into somebody's head. It has come through this process of working on your personas. At the end, I'm going to say, if you would like a copy of the template, it's with really clear instructions on how to build these templates, to build your ideal client personas, just stick it in the chat box and I'll get a copy off to you. But I'll talk about that at the end. Now, just want to show you a couple of decent examples of copy. And again, here's a firm that focuses on creative agencies. The copy, the first thing you'll notice here, oops, a daisy, is that the copy is not we, like 90% of accountants. We are, again, if we look at those claims that we looked at, we are the leading firm. We do this, we do that. Remember, people aren't interested in you. They're only interested in the outcomes and what you can help them achieve. Now, let's have a look here. The copy uses a lot of what you call you phrasing, as opposed to we, which totally engages the reader. Now here, creative agencies aren't like other businesses. Nothing to do with the accountants. The issues and opportunities you face are often unique to the creative sector, so the traditional approach to financial management might work well for rigid manufacturers, doesn't cut it for you. We then cut down the bottom. The best performers in the sector focus on the future, not the past. Their profits grow consistently because... So here we're bringing some value and some understanding through. And as you can see, other places on the site, we've got some steady row of content that they're producing. Accountants, they're creatives, which helps for search engine optimization and your rankings. But equally, that is demonstrating value in advance of working with this firm. They're not saying, believe me, we're going to do all these things for you. They're proving it. It's a bit like the difference between a referral, where somebody picks up credibility and trust and passes your practice and passes it to somebody else. The difference between somebody who's referred to you and somebody who's come off the website, you have to prove all of that. What strong content that's focused, that is giving real, true benefits, and please, not selling, but helping and supporting. This value in advance means that if you keep the communication going, when their pain becomes acute, they're going to find you and they're going to move to you. Now, let's see what else we've got here. Again, we're looking at some practical ways about pulling some leads through and what we can do. This I've just ripped off of our website, called a call to action. So the aim here is that for me to start communicating with my ideal client, not anybody, but my ideal client, I'm going to build some content around their pain points, their issues, etc. I'm going to make it very simple for them to download the report. I'm only asking for two things: their first name and their email address. Bang, off it goes to them. Again, if you actually look at the report here, we've got a really scary, awful picture of this frightening telephone. The report is not at all salesy. Part of the purpose here is actually to say that I don't think it's going to work for this section of people. You know, look at other ways. There's just an example we have there. So let's look at how we're going to win these new clients. Touched on one or two things, but back to you again, Steve. I loved this when I heard it. I heard this at Accountancy this year, was your definition of marketing, which you talked about this morning. I hope I quoted you relatively word perfect, but the whole point of marketing is to get meetings with quality potential new clients. And essentially, sales is what happens during and after the meeting. Now, again, this comes back to what we've looked at earlier, and this disconnection between marketing activity, as it's commonly practiced in accountancy professions, not just in the UK, and actually developing new business, and that means a structured plan and a pathway for them to follow. It's so important. Now, we've also done a fair bit of work with Martin Bissett, and Martin is an absolutely fantastic consultant, does a lot of work with accountants here in the UK and in the States. And again, I pulled this out of one of his emails from earlier this year. If your marketing isn't getting you meetings with quality potential clients, you have to ask yourself, what is it doing? So within the space of, I think, about a month or 6 weeks, I listened to you, Steve, and I caught Martin's email, which I just thought was so incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing we're going to look at is we want to work with our ideal clients. So perfectly naturally, our ideal clients want to work with our ideal advisor. And that usually means if we're stepping up from, say, £1,500, £1,000 fees to £4,000 or £5,000 fees, we have to make some changes too. We have to step up to this challenge. And one of the key areas that we've touched on today is this mentality, this mindset of abundance, not scarcity. So don't be afraid to stop appealing to everybody with these pointless, generic claims that really provide very few benefit to anybody, and hone in on having, I suppose the difference is you could say that you can have a lukewarm appeal to everybody, or be bold, have a red hot appeal to a small number, because that's where the margin is and that's where the lifetime value is. Other really important parts, and we've certainly worked with clients like this over the years, is we're helping them to take that step up in terms of the fees and the type of clients that we're introducing them to, and on the basis of that introduction is that they have to look and feel the part. They have to be authentic. So if your clients are turning over £50,000 to £100,000, they probably are too concerned that when they call you, it rings through to a BT answer message. If you're working with business owners of £1 million or £500,000, that's not good enough anymore. If you're sending emails out from domain of .btinternet.com, as opposed to your own domain, again, that's something that doesn't start to feel right. It's, I know you'll love behavioural economics, Steve, and all the progress we've seen in neurology and understanding neuromarketing over the last few years, the brain will reject it. The brain will say, no, something here, I could put my finger on it, but something wasn't quite right there.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to not just focus on your ideal clients, but think, look back again, put yourself in their shoes, which I've said 100 times today. What do they want? What do they value? Now, The other thing we need to do is we need to tell the world. In more detail, let's look at that. So we've got the website. We're going to change it totally. We're going to strip away all those meaningless minimum standard claims that encourage people to, can you match this thing? Well, can you do it for that? And we're going to put in our strengths aimed at those specific business owners that we can help in specific part of their journey. We're going to focus our social media on that if it's part of our plan, only if it's part of our lead generation and nurturing plan. We are especially going to focus on LinkedIn, all kinds of ways we can do a good few hours on LinkedIn on this particular area here about putting your message through. And really importantly, sit down with your referrers. We touched on this earlier. Don't say, I'm an accountant, I'll have anybody. Sit down, as we talked about Mark Lee's financial advisor that he mentioned. Sit down with your advisors, the bank manager, the IFAs, the solicitors, your clients, and really explain to them who you can help best and how and when. Again, lukewarm to everybody, red hot to a few. Now, how are we going to do it? We've touched on this value in advance, which is the difference of somebody getting in touch with you and saying, can you match this? I want it cheaper. Or somebody getting in touch with you and being thrilled and excited about working with you. So how are we going to get this credibility and this authority across? We're going to use blogs. We're going to use seminars. We're going to use free reports, white papers, addressing the issues, the pain points, the blockages in the business, video. You know, all of these things, they might sound a bit scary if you're not engaging with them at the moment, but video is as simple as your mobile phone and a tripod from the pound shop. That's where I started.
Yeah.
If we looked at LinkedIn, I'll give you a really quick example of just how it worked well for us when we started really getting our act together on this a few years ago. We started putting a lot of blogs out. We started putting a lot of white papers out. And within 3 months, I got an email from a consultant in Mumbai who was representing a $5 billion non-banking finance organisation throughout India, looking to launch into the UK. He had seen our content and the credibility and the trust, the approach that he made to us. We didn't have to do a great deal of selling. We weren't the biggest in the marketplace, but we had a presence where I hope and I believe we were helping these people out. We were giving a lot of content, a lot of free advice out there, so that when we did make contact, we were already quite progressed. Now, I said from the email, within a week, I met the chief exec and the consultant in the hotel in London. The following Monday, I'm on a plane to Chennai. Within 3 weeks, we're launching them into the UK. Now, that came purely off the back of targeting of what we're talking about here in the third section. The blogs, the seminars, the white papers, etc. The video. Have fun with it. Try it out. Make a mess and do it again. Yet all of this stuff, you're going to have to make a few mistakes before we move forward. Now, we're going to have a look at effective new business. That's the summary. We need to understand our ideal clients. Crucially important. We need to bring value in advance of working with you. Show them what you can do. Prove it to them. Help them. We are going to increase our fees in line with the value we bring. Value pricing. I always recommend Mark Richards' brilliant book. I always say it, Stephen, I don't mean this in a negative way. It's brilliant because it's so small. You can read it over and over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So go and get that. And again, make sure your business development results in meetings, proposals, plans of action. How are we going to take you forward? Now, cut back for a second. I have mentioned, well, I don't know if I have mentioned, but in the past, Steve, we love working with ABN clients because they know a lot of this stuff and that you've got some fantastic packages and services that you've trained them up on. I suppose it's a bit like you can go to webinars and seminars and they can teach you, also give you some tips on how to draw. What you do, I think, is almost dot to dot. You take every process to form that picture, which I think is brilliant. Most of a lot of the firms we work with are either ABN clients or ex-ABN clients. But I would just want to show you the kind of results that can be achieved. This is from an ex-ABN client. But the first question, the first conversation we had, I asked him to tell me a little about his ideal clients. I said, if the phone's going to ring and it's a potential client who wants to talk to you, tell me about it. And he spat out, their children are privately educated, they have holiday homes, they drive premium cars. He knew them inside out. He had these heuristics in place so he could understand and identify them. And I want to show you the proof, essentially. This is an email we received from him a little while ago. A little bit on later diaries here. Look at the PS. You've given me some great leads of late, and I'm awaiting some big fees. Blah, blah, blah. Accepted yesterday. Will easily be fees of £20,000. My second meeting was excellent. I expect to pick this up circa £12,000. I've almost appointed me on £10,000. And I think I told you he's agreed on 23, we've just written out some couple of issues. Probably got a couple of decent referrals, and so may buy too. What I've cut out is the next P, or the PPS, which is, I'm so busy, can you stop for a while? Which is what you want to. But if you look at this client, that's £65,000 worth of work that came through in 6 weeks, and look at the value of those fees. He learned an awful lot from Steve at ABN, and he's worked to develop it more. This is the potential and what is out there for you. This is, I'd love to say this is the average month's work, but it's probably a little bit exceptional. But we do get fantastic results, and these certain levels of fees are very common with the clients we work with because they know what they're doing and they focus, and it's all there for you. I'm running a little over time, so apologies for that. I want to leave you with a couple of offers. First of all, if you'd like a copy of that persona, just go into the chat box and just, I'm going to ask you, in fact, because we may have a bit of an issue with friends that we talked about, the first names appearing, if you could just type in your name and persona. And what I will do at the end of this, I'll make sure you get a copy. I'll get that off to everybody. If there are any sole practitioners out there who are looking for a bit more help growing, I run a group with Mark Lee called the Sole Practitioners Breakthrough Program. You'll be pleased to hear that we practice what we preach. We give an awful lot of free webinars, free white papers, blogs, all kinds of content, and we don't sell too much. So if you'd like to join the list there, get some details through, some reports through, again, just put your name in there with Sole Practitioner. And finally, if there's anybody out there who is looking at building their client base at this moment of time with, I suppose, firm fees that start at, we'd probably say start around the £4,500 mark as an average, then get in touch, give me a bell, we'll have a chat, see what we can do together. Wonderful. Anything you'd like to add, Steve?
Well, Patrick, that was. This is actually the first time we've worked together like this, or this morning session and this session. It's the first time I've heard you share your insights. I've taken 6 pages of notes as a consequence, and I'm sure many other people will have taken equivalent. I've learned an absolute mass from that. One of the things you said this morning, which because many of the people that are in this meeting with us at the moment are ABN members, which is fabulous. One of the things you said this morning was that when you compare the average fees that ABN members get off the leads that you generate for them compared to the average fees that non-ABN members or people that haven't been trained in the sort of the ABN way of doing things, typically the ABN member firms earn twice as much on average per client that they pick up than the others because they use the kind of process that you've been talking about and I was talking about earlier in the day. So if you're an ABN member watching this, my strong advice is that plug into Patrick's services, because the combination of what you get from us and what you get from Patrick will give you the sorts of results that are on the screen there, which are pretty fantastic. Whether or not you're an ABN member, it must make sense to take up his very generous offer of getting hold of that persona sheet. I've come across that idea before, but no one's ever explained it to me in a way that made me think, do you know what, I really understand why that's valuable and how to do that, and you have done that today. So a brilliant explanation, a brilliant tool, and really, really a no-brainer for people to request that from you, I would think. I would say if you found Patrick's sessions valuable, and if you're going to get his persona and so on, and he doesn't know I'm about to ask you to do this, but would you please, if you're not already, connect with him on LinkedIn and give him a testimonial there. Today was an incredibly valuable session, I thought. Clearly Patrick has an enormous body of knowledge that he shared with us, and he's done so freely this morning. I hope you found that as valuable as I had. It would be a really nice thing to do in return to simply give him a testimonial on LinkedIn so that other people can understand the value of listening to my friend, the absolutely fantastic Patrick McLoughlin. So really, those are my final couple of words.
That is wonderful. That would be absolutely fantastic if anybody would like to do that. Thank you so much, Steve.
I intend to go on. I shall be going onto LinkedIn very shortly and giving you a testimonial, Patrick, because I don't think I've done that before, and that is tremendously remiss of me. But really, unless there's anything else you want to add, I guess we have now reached the end. If that's the end of the content you wanted to cover, I found it hugely valuable. I'm guessing we can keep it open for a couple of minutes if there are any questions. I personally can't see the questions, but you can because you're the event host, so from a technological point of view. So I would suggest that if you have any questions, you can capture now. By the way, I noticed, Patrick, that quite a few people they may have used the chat box to request your personality sheet, your persona sheet, but quite a few people have put their contact details in the questions box. That's separate from the chat box. I can see the questions box, and I noticed there were at least 10 or 15 people in there, D. Garish and others, that had requested the persona sheet through that data capture place. So make sure that you look there as well as in the chat box when you're working out who to send it to, I suggest.
No, thank you so much. I've just clicked on those, seen them all. That's fantastic.
Great.
I'll stay here for a little while. If you have any questions, I'll tell you what, I think I might. Yeah, I'll also leave an email address as well, which is a very simple one. It's patrick@a and the number 4g. patrick@a4g.co.uk. And I'd be delighted to answer any questions there. Whilst I'm trying to play with GoToWebinar to see your questions in a little bit of a bigger font so I can get back to you. But thank you so much, Steve, and thank you for everybody for giving me this precious hour of your time. I really hope it's going to make a difference to your future. But I'm going to stay online if anybody would like to put any questions in. Could I ask you to type them into the chat box, because I can see them a little bit clearer now. I'll look in both then. Thanks very much, Steve.
There are some very nice thanks to you also in the questions box. One person described it as excellent. Someone else said, well, in fact, several people said it excellent. So yeah, that feedback mirrors my my feedback to you, Patrick. Superb session. Thank you very much.
Very kind. Thank you very much. That's brilliant. Let me just see if we can see any questions in there. Let's have a look. I've got a lot of people asking for the persona, so we'll get those all now to you. Fantastic. Let's have a look.
Yeah, loads of thanks going through the question box as well. People have found that really, really valuable.
That's wonderful. I really appreciate that. I'll tell you. Excellent.
Particularly thrilled you loved it, Dee, because I know you know so much enormous amount of stuff already. Say hi to Rob to me as well.
Oh, I think we're seeing a few there. If I could ask you again, if you could just type your email address in there as well, that would be brilliant. We'll see what we can do afterwards. But we have friend appearing as the first name, which isn't helping us a great deal. Brilliant. Now, let's see if we have any questions. Thanks. There's so many responses here. Thank you so much. Not for the ideal persona. Let me. Excellent.
I would actually suggest, Patrick, that if there is a technical glitch and you can't tell everybody who's asked for the persona, I think you would have no problem whatsoever. You'd have everybody's permission to send it to everybody. They can always ignore it, can't they? You must have the email addresses from the registration list, I would think. I would think everybody switched on who saw that your session today will want that persona sheet. So I would imagine you've got permission to send it to them all.
That's brilliant. I think that's probably the best course of action. But I shall get all of that sorted out. I can't see any specific questions this time. But if anything does appear, what I'll do is I'll get back to you. Well, attempt to get back to you by email if at all possible if we trace it. I think we're starting to see a few names in there too. That's brilliant. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Patrick. Well, I'm going to jump off now and do some other things. It's been a joy working with you on both sessions today. Thank you very much on behalf of the delegates at both events. And on behalf of me, we'll talk again very soon.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, everybody. As I say, if you want to type it in there, I'm going to get straight back to you. Fantastic. Excellent. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks very much, and I hope we get a chance to talk in person. Goodbye.